It's a decade since Dustin Lance Black won an Oscar for his screenplay Milk. Since then, he's worked to overturn California's anti-gay marriage proposals and made his own wedding vows to British diver Tom Daley.
Now in his memoir, Mama's Boy, Dustin revisits his upbringing in a conservative Mormon home as part of a journey that's taken him from rural Texas to the steps of the US Supreme Court. Delighted to say he's here.
Morning.
To talk us through it. Good morning.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on the programme.
Thanks for having me.
The decision, I always think it's interesting, the decision to write a book like this.
Yes.
Did you say, I'm going to write it, no, I'm not going to do it, I'll do it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that happened many, many times. People were asking me to write a book around the Oscars or around the Supreme Court win. It just felt so backward looking. I didn't know what the purpose of it was, except to pat myself on the back, and that seems dull. So this story was one that I felt might have a purpose now, because if my mom and I, who are so politically different, I mean, she was very, very conservative, Mormon, military, but had been paralyzed from polio since she was 2. So we had to raise her since she was a single mom. I had a 2-year-old brother. I was 6. My big brother is 10. We had to raise her as much as she was raising us. We had to figure out how to get along. We had to figure out where the bridges were that could bridge political divides. We had to figure out a higher plane than politics. I mean, all these things started to sound like themes and ideas that could be vital right now. I thought, boy, I think maybe I have one story that has a purpose in the future, which is how do we find our higher plane than politics in a time this divided?
The thing about your mum, I mean, you sort of mentioned there that she had polio. I mean, she had a really tough time because of that, didn't she?
Yeah.
She was made to leave home, go to a sort of hospital. I mean, difficult doesn't even begin to touch it, does it?
She was so tough. And I think it starts with my grandmother, Cokie, who taught this. You know, she was raising 9 kids in the poorest city in America, Lake Providence, Louisiana, by herself. Her 7th child, at 2 years old, loses the ability to move from the chest down, is dying. At 2 years old, is put in a hospital in Mississippi, and she spent the rest of her years, until she was about 16, 17, in those hospitals. Surgeries, horrific treatment. But it was really my grandmother, who I never met but I love, who said, no matter what those doctors say, no matter what the nurses say you won't be able to do, none of it's true. There's no such thing as impossible. They said, you'll never walk, you'll never fall in love, you'll never have kids, you'll never have a job. Well, I'm proof she got some of that right.
It's a very powerful message, that, isn't it? And, you know, you can... it's hard to sort of summarise everything about your relationship with your mum in a short TV interview. I'd encourage you to read the book. But what do you think she would have made of the book?
I mean, I think I wanted to be incredibly candid. So I think she'd be shocked at the things I discovered about her before she was a good Mormon housewife, before she was a good Mormon mom. I think she was an incredible flirt. She figured out how to get all those push boys and wheelchairs.
These are boys who are helping her with the wheelchair. Yeah.
All the young priests in training in her hospital. She wooed them all. And I was like, this is not the woman that I met. And it was so great to meet that version of my mom, that young adolescent, you know, with a heart the size of the world.
You talk about the book, about difference and how important difference is. And
yeah.
I mean, this is not an easy answer to this, but, you know, she's Mormon, you are gay, and that was obviously something that was a big deal for you to have to tell her.
It was tough. But here's the lesson my mom taught me and that I had to learn. When she found out I was gay, I didn't come out to her because I thought I would lose her.
Yeah.
When she found out, instead of just divorcing me of the family, she showed the courage to get on a plane and come to California. And she showed the curiosity to ask my friends questions, to meet LGBT people, to hear their stories. And that started to break down some of the misconceptions she had learned. What I learned as I started to lose my mom, I'll get choked up talking about it.
I'm sorry.
But what I learned was that I had not been that courageous, and that street has to go both ways, and that I had to show the courage to go back to the Mormon faith, not to join it again, but to at least meet with them, have dinner with them, see if we could find common ground, and to go back to Texas and the South and to conservative folks, and to see if I could build a bridge across a political divide. Could I do what she did? And that's what the last third of the book is.
I wanted to ask you briefly about other projects as well, because Milk was a huge success. Do you have plans on another biopic, something else a bit like that? Yeah,
there's a couple coming. There's, for people who want to look up a great figure from history who's been ignored, Bayard Rustin. So I'm working on that movie right now. I'm off to New York next week to work on that. And then I have a mini-series called Under the Banner of Heaven, which is a deep dive into Mormondom.
And does being a dad make it more difficult to get the work done?
You know, it's so strange. You figure out you can do so much with so little sleep. I had no idea it was possible.
amazing, isn't
world,
it?
Yeah, I had no idea. But yeah, you get that 20 minutes when he goes down for a nap, and I'm like, writing, we got to get this going. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good to meet you. Thank you
So
very
good.
much.
Thanks for
Dustin's
having me.
book is called, as we said, Mama's Boy. Good to see you.